Welcome to USTC360. I'm Ginger Chang. Our feature today brings us to Tzu Chi's Continuing Education Center in San Dimas, California. The center offers a variety of extracurricular workshops for adults, which is great for people who want to learn a new skill. We have Professor Lius Diaz, a New York State certified ESL teacher who works at New York City's Queens Adult Learning Center with us today. Welcome, Professor Diaz. So, from what I understand, you are a former ESL student yourself. Can you tell us how it was when you started out learning English? Because learning a new skill takes time and patience. So can you tell us how it was for you?
In general, learning a new language is extremely difficult, especially if you come here as an adult.
Right.
It is more difficult to learn a new language as an adult than as a child. For me, it was very difficult. At the same time, it was very exciting because knowing that if I knew the language, I would be able to find a good job to support myself, go back to school and continue my education, and that kept me motivated.
How come you decided to become an ESL teacher afterwards?
I always wanted to be a teacher.
Oh, okay.
One of my high school teachers always told me that if I wanted to make a difference in people's lives, one of the best ways was to become a teacher. Teachers touch people's lives forever.
Well, in the first segment, our volunteer Lisa Nee also had to make adjustments too. Let's go see how she was able to do so by becoming an education volunteer at the Continuing Education Center.
Sometimes the two of us would get into big fights, with some of them being really intense. In the beginning, my husband didn't really understand Tzu Chi. Whenever I would be going out to volunteer, he would tell the kids, "Hurry, hurry, your mother is going to that Buddhist temple place." Our two kids would then run out and hold onto my leg, crying, "Mom, we need your family love." I would say, "I am not going to become a nun, I'm just volunteering." So I had to go in secret sometimes. Over time, my husband finally understood and supported me.
When my wife first started volunteering, I really objected to it because sometimes she wouldn't be there when I got home from work. I was used to having soup and 3 or 4 dishes for dinner waiting for me when I got home. So I would tease her sometimes. "What big business deals are you busy with now? I'm running a business, a factory with 200 or 300 workers. But you're even busier than I am. It's almost midnight and you have more phone calls than I do." I was stressed out at work, so I would reprimand her. Now, I feel that I was too obsessed with my work back then.
He was probably concerned that I would dedicate all my time to Tzu Chi and neglect the kids. He was very conservative and traditional and worried that I would become a Buddhist nun, so he was really frustrated for a while. We had huge arguments. Thinking back, he was actually helping me all along. Sometimes, when I needed to set up a stage or to move heavy things, he would help me quietly in the background. When I was going to the nursing homes or homes for the mentally ill, he would help me with the props and equipment. However, I didn't consider all that when we were in the heat of our arguments. At times, I even said, "I've worked hard for my entire life. Now that I've quit my job, I want to live my own dreams." I sometimes said harsh words. I even complained to my mentor and cried a lot. My mentor told me, "It's fine. The words have been said. You can't take them back. But don't act that way. Just be nicer when you go back home." But through all of these arguments and compromises, we actually grew closer.
I remember back then Lisa came to me and she told me her greatest wish, to recruit her husband. My simple idea was to invite him to help us. Honestly, a lot of the husbands of our volunteers here are not part of the organization. All of these women hope to recruit their significant others and share the same path. So I called Lisa's husband asking, "Brother Leo, we are starting a Tai Chi class. Can you come help us?" He said, "I will try to come." At the beginning, he helped silently, moving tables, cleaning the location. Afterwards, rain or shine, he would always come out to support us. Eventually, he joined the official volunteer training program. So all along this while, he really gave a lot. He was the angel who gave silently and patiently behind the scene. Our recent project to organize the warehouse was also very professional with his leadership.
From first objecting to his spouse's participation in Tzu Chi to his own acknowledgement of Tzu Chi's missions, and eventually becoming a dedicated Tzu Chi volunteer, David Liu has used his managerial experience and brought efficiency into different areas of Tzu Chi. This couple has selflessly given their time because they both had gone through the struggle of joblessness.
It came as a shock when we both found ourselves unemployed. We had just bought a house, so it was really stressful. My husband didn't even want to tell anyone about it. Whenever we would see other volunteers, they would ask, "Uncle David, you're not working today?" I had to make up lies, saying that he was taking an unpaid day off. The same thing happened the week after. "Brother David, why are you still hanging out on the street?" I had to make up so many little lies. Eventually, we stopped making excuses and just told them that we had retired and were no longer working.
When that day came, I got so many gray hairs. My hair wasn't that gray to begin with, but at that instant, it began turning gray. And my health deteriorated. I couldn't stand up. I was never sick before then. After I recovered from that disease, I realized just how fragile humans are.
In the beginning, we were really frugal. Before making any purchase, I would pause and ask myself if it was an absolute necessity or just a want. If it was for food or medication, then obviously it had to be bought. But if it was a luxury item, we didn't buy it. Honestly, the clothes in my closet can still be worn for 10 years. We also began growing our own vegetables. We panicked a little in the beginning, but gradually accepted it. We simplified our lives down to the bare necessities, but it was really not too terrible. We just removed the unnecessary from our lives. I'm really glad we made it through that tough time.
After overcoming their physical fears, Lisa Ni and David Liu recovered from the gloom of unemployment and devoted their time to Tzu Chi's education projects.
I think they are very friendly. Every time they came to class, they give you the warmest smile and greet you. And they remember the names of every student and care for them to the smallest detail. "Hey, you weren't here last time. What happened? You came late today. Is everything okay?" They were so caring and also informed us about some Tzu Chi events. They are very loving. They practice Master Zhen Yin's values in this path of kindness, not just reciting Buddhist scriptures. And they cared for every one of us like their own family.
Sister Lisa started volunteering in education ever since the first term of our Tai Chi class. To this day, they are still very dedicated and responsible. I'm really glad they joined us as we grew and learned together.
Since coming here, I smile more often and I'm more joyful in all that I do. I used to have a bitter face that never smiled. Now, both my son and daughter are married and are leading good lives on their own. I am really grateful to my wife for bringing up our two great kids.
When the housing market begins to recover, we would like to sell a house and become honorary chair member of Tzu Chi. I believe that we have a responsibility to help and want to make a big part of our lives. Every time we set out to accomplish a very difficult task, I tell Master, I think I'm ready. I've made all the necessary preparations. Please give me the strength, confidence, and courage. Help me accomplish my duty.
The two of us are still together, supporting and encouraging each other. This is what we like to do.
According to the National Center for Education Statistics, adult learners are non-traditional students. A key difference is that the adults are generally more motivated and apply their knowledge in a practical fashion to learn effectively. Professor Diaz, can you tell us how it was the first time when you began teaching?
I remember when I started teaching ESL to adults, many of my students come up to me and say, Mr. Diaz, this is too difficult, I can't do it, I think I'll do something else. And my answer to them is, if I did it, so can you. I did what it took to be successful, and you can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. What kept you motivated to help them to overcome those difficulties?
When I see that students do good things in the community because of the program that we have, it makes me happy, and that's what keeps me going.
Well, everyone has to battle their own obstacles, such as our next education volunteer, Lisa Kong.
I first heard about Tzu Chi 20 years ago when I was still working in Taiwan. My boss was a Tzu Chi commissioner, and he really encouraged his employees to donate to Tzu Chi. But he wanted our donations to be deducted directly from our paychecks, and I thought that was kind of pushy and semi-obligatory. Of course, that influenced my perception of Tzu Chi, and because of that, I didn't take the time to get to know Tzu Chi better.
Linda had the chance to know Tzu Chi before in Taiwan, but her first introduction to it was inappropriate, so she really wasn't willing to learn more about it. However, it's never too late if the time is right. After coming to the United States, her son was learning to paint, and Linda had another chance to learn more about Tzu Chi. And yet another door was opened when she attended Miss Lulu's soap-making class.
I feel that teacher Lulu opened a door of wisdom for me. She told me that Master said we are to give and help others because we have more. That's why we are able to help. I agreed fully. So when you are helping, don't be choosy about who or where the recipients are or in which country they live. We are able to do so much more because we have so much more.
Since coming to the States 17 to 18 years ago, there have been many changes in my life. Some of them would probably have never happened to me if I had stayed in Taiwan. I would not have been able to do as much there as I do here. A Taiwanese company initially sent me here, but because of the economy, that company was closed down. We started our own business after that.
The challenges in life train us and give us both tangible and intangible wealth. Linda and her husband are able to appreciate and give to others because there was a time when all they could afford was to eat small portions of vegetables for a week.
Although Sister Yiling only knew a bit about Tzu Chi, but she was still very passionate about supporting the organization. She called me to ask about donating an ambulance in Taiwan.
So I helped her to find out how she could do that. It's actually a lot more complicated than just saying, I want to donate an ambulance. I told her about our honorary chair member program and how all donations go into the same pool for charity, medicine, education, and humanistic culture. So she donated and became an honorary chair member.
Usually, immigrants have their families and friends here, but we didn't have any relatives here. I mean, our company sent us here. We didn't have anything when we first came to the States. It really wasn't hard for us to make that donation because we had earned it all. We did it because we were able to do so, just like that. When we decided to donate to Tzu Chi, we knew that Tzu Chi is a big organization. We knew that they would be able to make good use of it, so we entrusted the funds to them.
Because I was adopted, I have always felt that there have been many angels helping me as I was growing up. If my mother and my grandmother hadn't adopted me and cared for me, I wouldn't have become the person I am today. My biological parents were Taoists. They said that my birth time and date were inauspicious, so they didn't want me. Of course, it was also because I was a girl, so they gave me away to their neighbors a week after I was born. Probably because I was often sick and troublesome as a baby, the neighbors returned me a week later. My adopted mother was still single then. She was considered a spinster, and the family was in poor financial shape because my adopted grandmother was a young widow who was bringing up 9 children on her own. My adopted mother was the eldest. My uncle, eldest son of my adopted grandmother, had an accident, was hospitalized and needed to pay for treatment and blood transfusions. So my adopted mother borrowed money from my biological father, but she couldn't pay him back. After that, my biological parents didn't want to care for me, so they gave me to my adopted mother.
Linda's adoptive mother loved her as her own, even though she took her in only to return a favor. As a result of such warm care, Linda was deeply inspired by her adoptive mother and grandmother's love.
I have received a lot of support during my life. A long time ago, I vowed to myself that when I had the ability someday, I wanted to also help others. I wanted to be the angel in another person's life.
Through the Tzu Chi soap making classes, Linda learned the message of environmental protection in a practical way and poured her gentle heart of gratitude into every soap she made.
She has greater demands from her students. You have to understand everything and ask questions when you have them, or your time here in class is wasted. I take everything seriously. I made all the cleaning and skincare products from head to toe. I don't buy them from the stores. It's a huge savings and really environmentally friendly.
From Taiwan to the US, from a student in the soap making class to a volunteer teacher, from an adopted daughter to a mother, Linda has played every role of dedication and lived every second of her life to the fullest.
They did a great job raising us, me, my brother, and my sister. I love you guys very much and thank you for all you've done for the past 26 years of my life.
Welcome back. So, Professor Diaz, can you tell us what you've gained from this experience as a teacher?
Over the years, more than 10 years, I have seen people change their lives, personally and professionally. Students learn the language, they can either retain a new job or they can find a new job. And that is a good thing for the economy.
Well, Professor, thank you very much for coming on to the show. It was a pleasure having you on board.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. In our next segment, Footprints, we introduce you to Dolly Chu. Let's go meet the education volunteer who teaches Chinese painting class on the weekend at the Continuing Education Center.
At first, I didn't think Tzu Chi would hire me because I am a Christian and Tzu Chi is a Buddhist organization. However, I never thought Sister Judy Chuck and Sister Ginger would invite me. I was deeply touched by their sincerity. Therefore, I agreed to teach in Tzu Chi. For this time, I am very happy that Tzu Chi had organized a charity auction. Thus, I was thinking my fellow students may be interested in joining the activity too. I chose 3 students who were impacted by Tzu Chi's philosophies and willing to share their thoughts. So the participating students will report here every early morning to work on their projects. They were very dedicated and even worked late into the evening since every art piece required much individual time and attention. Whenever we are done with our drawing, it has to go through the kiln to burn. After that, we let it cool before we continue on to the next step. Of course, accidents such as small damages happen during the process, and when it does, we have to start all over again. However, it's because of this, they are more careful, more attentive to details, and the finished product is priceless. In fact, every student keeps their own completed pieces since they want it for keepsake. But I encourage them to donate their work because through giving, you will receive more. Finally, I know my students are extremely happy because the piece is sold for $500. In our world today, there is a lack of love, so I believe we all need to build it together. It touches me every time when Tzu Chi volunteers use the money out of their own pockets to go on disaster relief missions. Their selflessness inspires me, so I often encourage my students to carry on. I like Tzu Chi because Tzu Chi volunteers motivate me, and everything Tzu Chi does has touched my heart.
Dolly brings up a good point. It's important to look beyond our own beliefs and backgrounds because in the end, we all have the same color blood running in each of us. I'm Ginger Chang, thank you, and I'll see you next week.